Welcome to your next travel. How much does it cost to travel to Iceland in 2026?
Okay, let's go.
Imagine driving through a landscape that looks like Mars. Waterfalls crashing down 60 meters high, black sand beaches stretching into the Atlantic, and the northern lights dancing above your head. But here's the real question. How much does a trip to Iceland actually cost in 2026? Is it really one of the most expensive countries in the world? Or can you travel Iceland on a smart, controlled budget? In this complete Iceland travel guide, I'm breaking down real flight prices, accommodation costs with real strategies, car rental and transportation the biggest expense, and how to save serious money without ruining your experience if you're planning an Iceland itinerary, a ring road trip, or a Northern Lights adventure. This is the only budget breakdown you need. Let's start with the first big expense, flights. 1. Flights to Iceland in 2026. Detailed breakdown. Main gateway, Keflavik International Airport. Nearly all international travelers arrive here about 45 minutes from Reykjavik. Average round-trip prices 206 from North America, East Coast, USA, 40650 West Coast, USA, 6001, 000 Canada, 450750 from Europe, UK and Germany, 80-50 Spain and Italy, 120350 Scandinavia, often under 150 Icelandair and Play Airlines continue to offer competitive pricing, especially from Europe, when flights are most expensive. June to August midnight sun season, Christmas and New Year. Northern Lights demand. July is peak pricing. Cheapest months to fly to Iceland: late April, May, September, early November. Smart booking strategy: book 2-4 months in advance. Fly midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday departures. Avoid weekend returns. Consider overnight flights from the US to maximize vacation days. Realistic average flight budget. Plan around $600 per person as a safe global average. Flights are not the main problem in Iceland. Accommodation and transport are. Let's talk about that. 2. Accommodation costs in Iceland. What no one tells you. Base city, Reykjavik. Accommodation is the reason Iceland has a reputation for being expensive, and here's why. Limited population, under 400,000 people. Short high season, strong tourism demand, high labor costs. Average prices per night: 206 hostel dorm bed, 40-70 private room in guest house, 120-200 budget hotel, 150-20 mid-range hotel, 250-400 luxury hotel, 500 plus, and that's per room, not per person. The Reykjavik trap. Many travelers stay all 7 nights in Reykjavik and take day tours. That could work, but tours are expensive. You lose flexibility, you miss remote landscapes. A smarter strategy is stay along the ring road. Ring road. This road circles the entire country. If you book small countryside guest houses, you avoid city pricing. You wake up next to waterfalls and mountains. You reduce driving distances. Campervan option. Budget hack. A campervan can replace hotel costs, give you flexibility, reduce restaurant expenses. Average 7-day campervan cost 1,202 for 2 people, splitting costs. This becomes much more reasonable. 7-night accommodation budget. Estimate budget traveler 500-800 mid-range traveler 1,201-800 luxury traveler $3,000 plus. Accommodation is the second biggest cost after transportation, which brings us to the real budget killer. 3. Transportation in Iceland. The most important decision if you're planning an Iceland road trip. This is where most of your money goes, and honestly, it's worth it. Why? Renting a car in Iceland is almost essential. Public transportation is extremely limited outside Reykjavik. To visit waterfalls, glaciers, black sand beaches, volcano sites, fjords. You need your own vehicle. Car rental costs 7 days, 206 small 2 WD car, 600-900 for X4. SUV recommended in shoulder or winter seasons. 1,2001-800 manual cars are cheaper than automatic. Winter equals higher prices. Gas price. SLN fuel prices are high. Full ring road loop fuel cost 250350. Total driving distance about 1,300 kilometers 800 miles. Insurance don't skip this Iceland's weather changes fast. Wind damage is common. Gravel damage is common. Add gravel protection, sand and ash insurance. Full coverage. Extra insurance cost $15.30 per day, but it can save thousands. Alternative, guided tours if you don't want to drive. Day tours, $82.00 per day, but for 7 days. That often becomes more expensive than renting a car. Total transportation budgets: more car plus gas, $9.001, $2.004 x 4 plus gas, $1,402, $0.000 split between 2- for travelers. This becomes much more affordable. Transition to next section. So far, your Iceland travel budget in 2026 looks like this. Flights, $600. Accommodation, $7,001, $500. Transportation, $9,001, $500. And we haven't even eaten yet. In the next section, we'll break down food prices in Iceland and how to avoid spending $25 on a sandwich. Script: how much does it cost to travel to Iceland? Part 5: Food costs in Iceland. One thing that surprises almost everyone visiting Iceland for the first time is the price of food. Eating out in Iceland can be quite expensive. In most restaurants, a basic meal will cost somewhere between 20 and 35 euros per person. If you go to a nicer restaurant, or if you order multiple dishes, the price can easily go above 50 euros per person. For example, a simple burger with fries in Reykjavik might cost around 22 to 25 euros. A pizza can cost around 20 euros. And if you want to try traditional Icelandic dishes like lamb or fresh fish in a restaurant, the price might be 30 to 40 euros or even more. Drinks also add to the total. A beer in a bar can cost around 9 to 12 euros, which can quickly increase your daily expenses. Because of this, many travelers try to reduce food costs by buying groceries instead of eating out all the time. The most popular supermarket chains in Iceland are Bonus, Kronan, and Netto, where you can find basic groceries at relatively reasonable prices. For example, a sandwich from the supermarket might cost 3 to 5 euros. A ready-made meal might cost 6 to 10 euros, and basic ingredients like bread, pasta, and fruit are affordable if you cook yourself. Many travelers who rent a camper van or stay in hostels with kitchens prepare their own meals. This can dramatically reduce the daily budget. In fact, if you mostly cook your own food and only eat in restaurants occasionally, you might spend around 15 to 25 euros per day on food, instead of 50 or more. Another popular option is grabbing food at gas stations, which in Iceland often have surprisingly good hot meals like soups, sandwiches, or fish and chips. So while food in Iceland can definitely be expensive, with a little planning it's still possible to keep your budget under control. Part 6: Activities and experiences. Another important part of the budget when traveling to Iceland is activities. The good news is that many of Iceland's most incredible attractions are completely free. Waterfalls, black sand beaches, volcanic landscapes, glaciers, and dramatic cliffs can all be visited without paying an entrance fee. In fact, some of the most famous places in Iceland, like Skagafoss, Seljalandsfoss, and the black sand beach at Reynisfjara, are free to visit. However, some experiences and guided tours do come with additional costs. For example, one of the most popular activities in Iceland is visiting a geothermal spa. The famous Blue Lagoon typically costs between 60 and 90 euros, depending on the package you choose. Other geothermal pools, like Sky Lagoon or local thermal baths, usually cost 20 to 50 euros. Another popular activity is exploring glaciers. A glacier hike with a guide usually costs around 80 to 120 euros per person, depending on the duration of the tour. If you want something even more adventurous, like ice cave tours in winter, prices can range from 120 to 180 euros. In coastal towns, many travelers also book whale watching tours, which usually cost around 80 to 100 euros. And of course, during the winter months, one of the biggest highlights is trying to see the northern lights. Many people simply drive outside the city to look for them, which is free. But guided northern lights tours typically cost around 50 to 90 euros. The key thing to remember is that you don't need to book many expensive tours to enjoy Iceland. Simply driving around the island, stopping at waterfalls, hiking through volcanic landscapes, and enjoying the incredible scenery can already provide an unforgettable experience. Part 7: Total budget for a trip to Iceland. So when we combine all these expenses, how much does a trip to Iceland actually cost? Let's break it down for a typical one-week trip. Flights from Europe can range from 150 to 400 euros depending on the season and how early you book. Accommodation varies widely, but if you stay in hostels or budget guest houses, you might spend around 300 to 500 euros for the week. Hotels will cost more. Car rental for a week can range between 400 and 700 euros, especially during the summer high season. If you split the cost with friends, it becomes much more affordable. Food costs depend a lot on your habits. If you mostly buy groceries and cook some meals, you might spend around 120 to 200 euros for the week. If you eat in restaurants every day, that number can easily double. And finally, activities and tours might add 100 to 300 euros, depending on what experiences you choose. So in total, a realistic budget for a one-week trip to Iceland is usually somewhere between 1,200 and 2,000 euros per person. Of course, it's possible to travel cheaper if you camp, cook most of your meals, and avoid paid tours. But it's also easy to spend more if you choose luxury hotels and many guided excursions. But despite the cost, Iceland offers something truly unique. Few places in the world allow you to see volcanoes, glaciers, waterfalls, black sand beaches, and the northern lights all in one trip. And for many travelers, that experience makes Iceland absolutely worth it.